Alright, welcome back to another video. My name is Takumi Shigen and I'm a freelance photographer currently based in Tokyo, Japan. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about lens filters. So everything from what they do, which one should you buy, and do you even need them? So firstly, there are three main styles of lens filters that you will typically see. And they are a PL filter, ND filter, and UV filter. So each of these filters serve a different purpose that we will be covering in this video. So without further ado, let's start with UV filters. So first things first, UV stands for ultraviolet because the purpose of this filter is to block out ultraviolet light that can be caused from sun rays hitting your camera's sensor and lens. So this UV filter was popular back in the film camera days, but this isn't really an issue anymore for digital cameras. So personally, I only use these UV filters to protect my lens from getting damaged, and this is why when you buy a lens from a camera store, they will always try to sell you a UV filter for protection. But the trade-off with using a UV filter is if you buy a cheap one, it can firstly reduce the quality of your photos because you are covering the high quality glass of your lens with a cheap filter, and it can sometimes cause some unwanted flaring when pointing at certain light sources. So personally, I only use a UV filter when shooting in areas where my lens could get scratched or damaged. So for example, in super windy conditions or maybe at the beach. Okay, moving on to the next filter, and this is the PL, or also known as a CPL filter. So this stands for Polarizer, and the main purpose of this style of filter is to remove reflections caused from the sun, and these polarizer filters can help enhance the colors in your photos. So these filters work really well when shooting reflective surfaces like water or glass, or even during midday to help bring back the blues of the sky and to help contrast the clouds. So with circular polarizers, all we need to do is twist the filter to either enhance or reduce the effect. But do keep in mind, a trade-off with using a polarizer is that it does reduce the brightness of your photo slightly. So this is one of the main reasons why these style of filters are rarely used indoors. So I personally own and use this CPL filter made by Moment, and for the price, I believe it's one of the best on the market. Plus, it looks pretty cool when it's on the front of your lens. Okay, now moving on to the third filter, and that is an ND filter, which stands for neutral density. So the main purpose for an ND filter is to reduce the amount of light coming into your camera. And you may be asking, why would we want to even do this? And well, ND filters are primarily used for video because one of the basic rules of shooting video is that we need to keep our shutter speed double our camera's frame rate. So for example, if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, then you'll need to set your shutter speed to 1/50th of a second. And the problem is, if you're outdoors and it's quite bright and you want to shoot with a shallow depth of field, so let's say at f2.8, then having both a low shutter speed and a low aperture will cause a lot of light to hit your camera's sensor, which will then make your shot overexposed. So in order to pull this off correctly, we can then add an ND filter to darken our images so we can then use the correct settings and still have a balanced exposure. So for that main reason, ND filters are usually used by videographers because in photography, we have a lot more freedom when adjusting our settings. But with that being said, ND filters can be useful for photographers if they are wanting to do long exposures or panning during the day. So think of an ND filter like sunglasses for your camera's lens. So now, what ND filter should you buy? And well, there are two different styles of NDs that you can get. So that's a fixed and variable ND. So fixed NDs are a set specific level of darkness, and you'll usually see numbers next to them like ND8, ND16, and so on. And basically, the higher the number, the darker the filter is. Now on the other hand, variable NDs are filters that have different levels of darkness built into them, and we can then twist the filter to adjust to the lighting situation we're in. And for this reason alone, this is why I personally prefer using variable NDs over the fixed NDs. But with that being said, variable NDs can sometimes cause vignetting to appear in our images, and if you buy some of the cheap options out there, they can cause this X to appear in your shots. So if you are interested in picking up a variable ND, I highly suggest spending a little extra to ensure you get a high quality one. I personally use the Peter McKinnon Bipolar Pro Variable ND, and they do have two different strength options, but I personally have the 2 to 5 stop version, and this has worked perfectly in all different kinds of shooting situations. I have left links to all the filters I use in the description below if you are interested in checking that out. So now those are the 3 main filters you will come across, and before I wrap up this video, I just want to quickly cover thread sizes. So after you've decided which filter you want to get, it's now time to figure out which thread size you should purchase. So firstly, every lens has a specific thread size, so just make sure to check your lens to get the correct thread size. But if you do own multiple lenses, then a pro tip is to buy the filter for your biggest lens, and then you can use step-up rings to place the filter on all your other lenses. So for example, my biggest lens is my 24 to 70mm G Master lens, and the thread size is 82mm. So the CPL and ND filters I own are 82mm thread size. But I have a bunch of other lenses with smaller thread sizes, so instead of purchasing a filter for every size lens I own, I bought these step-up rings off of Amazon for about $15. I can then screw them onto my other lenses to essentially make them an 82mm thread size. So again, if you have multiple lenses with different thread sizes, I highly recommend you purchase filters for your biggest lens, then just pick up some step-up rings off of Amazon. Alright, so there we have it. These are the 3 main types of lens filters that you will come across, and what they do and when you would want to use them. So I personally own all these filters, and they definitely do come in handy, but if you're on a tight budget and you can only afford one, I would recommend the variable ND for videographers and the CPL filter for photographers. Again, I've left links to all the filters I use and recommend in the description below. Also, if you're interested in learning more stuff like this, I'm currently running a free photography training where I break down my top tips to capturing professional looking photos, plus the 5 key steps to actually making money with your photography. This training is 100% free, and you can hit the link in the description below to register if interested. Also, I'll be posting a bunch of new videos to this channel, so if you want to stay up to date with all the new content coming, hit the like and subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you in the next one.